Can you do a backflip? I can't do a backflip, right? These robots can do backflips. They're going to have all of our senses. They're going to have touch soon, just as good as ours. They'll have taste, smell, everything else. They've already got vision. They've already better at writing anything than I am, to be quite honest with you.
Piers, it is an honor to have you on the platform. You are an influential entrepreneur. You are known for being on Dragon's Den and The Secret Millionaire, and you're considered by the Financial Times to be one of the most influential BAME entrepreneurs in tech. And you're also known as, a diversity champion in the European Business Awards for Diversity Champion of the Year. So it's a real pleasure to have you on my platform.
Thanks for having me. Well done for building it. It's not easy.
The first question I'd like to ask you is, you were born in Stoke and you attended a local comprehensive school and have a background in both law and finance. What ignited your entrepreneurial drive?
Oh dear. So I think my mum was always very entrepreneurial, but she's from Barbados, and she wanted to work in finance, but in Barbados, weirdly, people don't quite understand this sometimes. Unless you were sort of like a white Bayesian, people don't understand that. Yeah, it was quite hard to get a job in finance back in the day, in the 60s. So she came to the UK to be a nurse. So she's always an entrepreneur. So when I grew up, mum was always doing stuff. She was a nurse and midwife. When I grew up, she was a health visitor for the NHS. But she ran the local slimming club or this club or that club. She was always doing something. So I think they came from my mum, I think, anyway. But dad was more kind of academic. And then I grew up in the north. So I was born in Stoke-on-Trent. And I grew up there till I was about 9. Then we moved to the hills, the hills of Lancashire, to a mill town, literally. So when I failed my 11 plus, and I went to the local sort of high school, comprehensive, whatever you want to call it, which wasn't a great school. But I love the history of the area. So when we looked out the window, and my history teacher, Mr. Beaumont, said, and mills look like this, and they've got chimneys and all that. And I was like, okay, there's 3 outside the window. And did you know that Weavers' cottages before mills had big windows, let all the light in so they could see what the hell they were doing? And there's one over there, literally, there's opposite my school. So I think then the entrepreneurs of the Industrial Revolution kind of triggered my interest. And then around me, where we lived, Eddie was a builder, Graham owned a quarry, Derek had a joinery business. So they weren't kind of the things that I was interested in. Everyone seemed to have a business. My best mate's dad, he had like markets selling shoes. It was kind of a shoe economy around there. It's called Rosendale in a small town called Baker. If anyone's listening to this or watching this and you've ever watched Brassic on Sky, that's filmed in a town where I grew up.
Wow.
Unbelievably, it is, yeah. My dad wrote them a letter complaining. So that's where it came from, to answer your question.
Thank you. And in your father Derek's eulogy, it was stated that when your mother retired, she actually hired him as her gig economy driver. So how influential were your parents in your approach to both business and life?
Massively. I mean, so my dad worked. He was like a executive in export he spoke like, I can't remember, 6 or 7 languages, like Russian fluently, French, Italian, German, Spanish. And he was a huge inspiration in terms. He was like my Chat GPT. Before Chat GPT, unless it was sports or popular music, they wouldn't have a clue. So my dad was like really sort of academic, really, and he read like 2 big books a week. So he was an inspiration really to learn about stuff, because he always had the answers for it if I wanted. And then my mum got the sort of West Indian kind of approach to things, work ethic. Where are you from? Your parents from?
So my parents are British, but my grandparents are from Jamaica.
Jamaican, right? Oh, right, okay, West Indian. So you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So my mum was quite sort of entrepreneurial. They weren't particularly pushy parents, and I know people say to me, "Oh, Piers, you came from this lowly background," and I did. Mum had a BMW, right? So my dad did okay, and my mum did okay, and we had a nice life. It wasn't a problem there. So they were my inspiration. And people said, "Who were your role models?" I'd say it was Sir Richard Branson, Bill Gates to some extent, Sir Ken Lisser a little bit. You may know Ken. He's a Lord Lieutenant of Greater London. But my parents, I wouldn't say they were kind of role models in that way, because they didn't really understand what the hell I wanted to do. But they were definitely had a huge influence on my life. And my dad's no longer with us, sadly, but my mum continues to do so. Keeps asking me, when are you going to get a proper job? This is too stressful at your age.
And even following on from that, from a young age, you were a genius when it came to business. You cut out your local news agent and started your own paper round, according to Nestor. Please tell us a bit about this venture, and was it successful?
Well, it's nice to call me a genius. I'm not sure that's the case. So this quick story there is, so when I grew up in Lancashire, when it snowed in the winter, it covered your car. It was grim. And I had a paper round earning like £5 a week. And if I was late, it was £4.50, right? This is like 1984, something like that. And I thought there's got to be a better way. So, cut a long story short, I realised my dad didn't want to get out of bed on Sunday and pick up his newspaper because they didn't deliver on Sundays. Mm-hmm. So, like in any business, you find a problem, don't you? And my solution was, I'll go and get it for you. You stay in bed, and then, but you know, what are you going to pay me for doing it? And he gave me a little bit of money. And I kind of scale it into a business where I fly the local neighborhood. It was a word of mouth, a lot of it actually. And then I realized that I couldn't buy the papers from the newsagent because it had a price on it. And that's what they were going to pay. There was no margin. So I had to go down the supply chain to the wholesaler. When I say we, my dad, down the supply chain, I was like 13, down the supply chain to the wholesaler and buy it from the wholesaler. And therefore I can make a margin. And then I delivered it and I was making about £20 on a Sunday morning, you know, much longer, much bigger bag. I was on my BMX bike delivering these things. But I learned from that my first business, my first proper business. I had other ones like mail order candles, all sorts of stuff I've tried. Selling that kind of a perfume that smells like well-known perfume. Did that for a while. But I always had these sort of side hustles. But the paper round taught me, number one, about the fundamentals of business. You've got to make money. You've got to have customers. You've got to keep them happy. You want to keep them happy. You want to keep them. You've got to have a margin. And the biggest thing was I was no genius, graft. You didn't matter what the weather was. It didn't matter you had a late night. It didn't matter that the snow was 4 foot deep, and the snow plows didn't do what they should have done the night before, and they didn't grit the roads 2 days before. They want the newspapers on Sunday morning, and you got to deliver them. End of. So I learned that.
And it's just incredible when you did your business. Did you end up selling it on, or what was the nature of it?
Yeah, so that was my first exit. So at some point, I don't know how old I was now, 15, 16, it wasn't cool to have a paper round. And I think I was 60, I was getting on a bit, because it was still quite a lot of money actually I was making. And I thought about getting other people to do it, expand it. And eventually I sold it to somebody. I think it was like for 200 quid, which then it's probably like £1,000 now. It's quite a lot of money. So it was my first exit. And the paper round also taught me that, working hard and being in business and doing your own thing gave you control. You can make a bit of money. It was like wealth creation, and it gave me options. I could go and get my £400 BMX, which is what I wanted at the time. I could go and buy my Lacoste jacket. It was stuff like that. And I realized that it gave me options and kind of freedom, really, in a micro way, but there's the same thing.
Thank you. And you did an interview, The Business of Everything, and it actually talked about how you decided to leave your career as an investment banker to then go full-time into entrepreneurship. Why did you decide to make this decision?
Well, it wasn't that clean, right? So for my paper round, I had a paper round. I sold like candles, mail orders before you could buy those nice candles in Tesco, right? I did, where was I now? University, I did like some sort of parties and stuff. Didn't do much at university really, but I worked in bars at university. I ran bars, so it was a job, not a business, but I was kind of running them really. And then law school, I went to law school then. I did like company formations, things like that. So I was always in business, doing something. And a good friend of mine, he was into films, and he started a film production business. I helped them raise finance from private investors using a tax incentive scheme. And then he made films, or he made the films. And he went on to run Red Bus Films. He run Lionsgate Europe, and now he's got his own film business called True Brit. So if you've seen a few of the films out recently, that's him, Ziggy. So I was always kind of doing things. And then there came a point where when I became a sort of working in the city, I didn't have time to do other things, right? Because I was working like, my longest stint was Wednesday morning, 8 a.m., left my desk at Friday at 6 p.m. right, without changing. It was like that. So my family stopped inviting me to parties and birthdays. So I was working so hard, I didn't have time. Then the internet came along, and then the side hustle was trying to work out what internet business to do. And then in 2000, we raised some money, and I left the city. But it's kind of a gold rush moment where I thought, I have to go and give this a go. And if you look at internet startups back in that web 1.0, a lot of the people who started the first .coms were bankers, management consultants, or people whose mum and dad had a lot of money. So, because I thought I could take a year out, or even two, I could go back. And obviously after the .com crash, my bridge back to the city was incinerated. So I couldn't go back. And things were there kind of up and down. Some made money. There was no real building businesses and selling it. And then after that, I continued from then really because there was no way back. And then I ended up in dance music, and then I went back to finance, which is where I made my first money.
Wow. And in The Guardian, you always talked about that your leadership approach basically involves never taking no for an answer. As of 2025, do you still take this approach to business?
Yeah, I mean, you mature slightly. I'm not so bloody minded about it because one of the issues about being young, and if you're an entrepreneur, lesson I've learned is don't chase rabbits too deeply down holes, right? So when you're young, you're bloody minded. This is it. I mean, young people now starting businesses, and they're like, this is it. And in their heads, this is it. This is the one that's going to enable them to buy an island, right? And that's not often the case. It's business 2, 3, 4, even 5 even that actually makes you, but you learn along the way. So I think initially what I never said no to was my career, really. So you got to think about my career. So people say to me, oh, well, you were a hedge fund manager, and then obviously you went through Credit Suisse in the city in finance. And before that, you were a lawyer. Before that, you went to law school. Oh, and you got a very sensible accounting and law degree at Manchester University. Oh, and before that, you did economics, history and law A-levels. It all stacks up. Backwards, like forwards, I didn't have a clue. It was a complete bonfire. I didn't know what A levels I wanted to do. I didn't know what being a lawyer was. When I got to university, I didn't know the difference between a solicitor and a barrister. And then I tried to get a job in the city, and everyone said to me, "Forget it. You did your A levels twice. You went to the good university. You got a good, but it was all Oxbridge." And what I never said no to was giving up on the applications, the interviews, saying to people when I got an interview, which is reasonably rare, give me a chance. And there's people along the way, and anyone listening to watching this should remember this, people along the way saw in my eyes, many didn't, some did, and I remember all their names to this day, gave me a chance. In the interview to become a trainee solicitor, they were both called Michael, a senior tax partner and a more junior corporate partner. Well, there wasn't a partner then, just a solicitor, gave me a chance. When I then decided I didn't want to be a lawyer, I then applied to get into be a banker. No one really responded to my letters. And then one recruitment consultant managed to get me an interview, and they gave me a chance, and I got into the city. And once I got into the city, it was a meritocracy. Nobody ever asked me what school I went to or what I got my A-levels ever again.
Wow, that's really, really powerful. And I think that I remember reading in that news article, you applied, was it 68 times before you got an interview?
Yeah, some of them twice. That's a number I remember, right? Some of them twice, admittedly, but 68 times. And I always think to myself, it didn't quite work like that. But if I'd applied 67 times, I would not have been a lawyer. I wouldn't be here talking to you, for sure.
Thank you. And even on from that, I was doing a lot of reading on you, and Richard Branson, who we talked about earlier in the interview, was somebody that you really looked up to. Why was it specifically people like Richard Branson that inspired you?
So I mentioned earlier, so often I'm asked, who are your role models, right? And I don't have many. I think my parents are very much influences. And my role model really was Richard Branson in a way, because when he wrote his first book, I was probably in my mid-20s. So I always think I grew up with Richard Branson. I knew he was there, but I probably only read his books and learned more about him when I kind of went into business almost. So it's kind of like, well, who do I what do I read about getting into business? So it was him really, and I found him fascinating, just the way what he did and the way he went about it. But also, I was a bit older then, and I wrote my thesis. I did a course where I had to write like a thesis almost on the social contract between corporations, society, and social business, basically. And he's very much he very much pushes the idea that business can be a force for good. I'm a big believer in that. So it's partly that as well. And I had a chance. I think it was the Times Fast Track Award, something like that. I think Virgin was sponsor. And he was on stage saying, I'm doing this trip to Africa. You can come and stay with me at my private game reserve. And we're going to go and meet entrepreneurs in Soweto and various other places. Who wants to come? And I was like, well, I want to go. And he said, so anyone wants to come, let me know. It's 60 grand. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to get in trouble when I get home on this one. And you can see my table, I can see me twitching at my table. Everyone was kind of like, is he really going to put his hand in the air? And I didn't know everybody, but they could see me thinking, whoa. And eventually I thought, you know what? You only here once. It's only money. Put my hand in the air. Best thing I ever did. Great experience. Spent time with Richard Branson. And when I ended up going with him a couple of months later, they were chasing me, the BBC, about Dragon's Den. I'm sure you'll ask me about. But let me give you the story. And they were chasing me. It's a true story, this. And I was in Ulusaba, the Kruger National Park in South Africa. Richard Branson's got a private game reserve there called Ulusaba, it's like a James Bond lair, like a rocky outcrop on the otherwise flat bush, basically. So in there, I'm thinking, who do I talk to about business and the media and how you combine the two and the pros and the cons and, obvious answer. And I don't know quite happened, but he ended up having a conversation over a beer, which I clearly do remember. And he said, we'll talk me through it. So I did. He said, you should do it. I think he said, screw it, just do it. Well, I like to remember that. I'm not sure that's what he said, but that's how I remember it. And what I do remember, though, is I tried to walk away. And he said, right, no, ring them right now and tell them. And that's where I ended up on Dragon's Den.
Oh, wow. So it was actually Richard Branson that inspired you to...
Yeah, because I wasn't sure about doing it. I'd done The Secret Millionaire.
Oh,
and
wow.
that 15 minutes of fame was quite interesting, also quite tiring. And Dragon's Den was a whole nother level, right? And I had a company and it was growing. It was doing quite well at the time. And I thought, I've got time to do this and celebrity and, and also most dragons, if you think about it, they're B2C businesses. Mm-hmm. So you can go, that's interesting. I'll go and buy whatever he or she sells on the high street. I was always B2B. You couldn't go and buy my stuff unless you wanted some cloud infrastructure. So anyway, it was all that. And he was the one that helped me sort of understand that the power of TV is what he said. He said to me, so social media wasn't big then as it is now. This is like 2013, 14. And he said, look, I used to get on a plane for a decent news slot. So it's worth doing. And he was right. It's been an experience that I was meeting someone the other day. They were a big search firm. And they were saying, you're quite well known as a dragon. I said, look, that was 10 years ago. I did 2 series and I probably ended up filming for, let's call it 10 weeks of my life 10 years ago. And it's still reverberating. So my only mentor I ever really had was Sir Ken Alyssa. He said to me, after the show, you can either go to the opening of an envelope, the opening of a fridge, or, celebrity, fall out of nightclubs drunk, or you can be serious. So I went the serious arc. Became a trustee of a £600 million foundation, ended up on the board of the government bank during COVID when we increased finance from 12 billion to 90 billion to SMEs in the UK. So I went a much longer arc, but I think it came good in the end.
That's brilliant. And even in your answer, you answered 3 of my questions, 2 about The Secret Millionaire and also how you joined Dragon's Den. So I'm going to go on to the next one, which is...
Well, Secret Millionaire, quick one, aside. So that's slightly different because that was probably I did a post on it recently, actually, a more profound experience. And that's where I was in prison. So they filmed the program, half in prison, half helping charities outside the prison. This is in Wolverhampton. When they edited it, they just did the prison. And I was hang on a minute. I gave away half the money. I gave more money away in the local community. Well, the prisons are more interesting. Okay, fair enough. So, and I met a young lad in there who we'll call Nathan, which I did another post recently. And he was a young black lad from Wolverhampton, very intelligent, wasn't challenged. School was rubbish. College didn't stand great either. Wanted to make some money. Sold a few things he probably shouldn't. Well, shouldn't. Got caught and got quite a long sentence. And I met him and thought, what are you doing in prison, man? If you were born in NW3, Hampstead in London, you'd be working at Morgan Stanley, right? But no, he's in prison, 11 years. So I met him afterwards, get a bit of support, mentored him a little bit. I hired him in the end, not because I felt like I had to. He wanted to do what I was doing, like computer IT support. I made him redundant, which was not ideal. He started some businesses. He went back to work in IT, and now he earns more money than I pay myself. He's got a family. He's got a beautiful house, and that's the point. There again is someone gives you a chance. You've got access to networks and social capital, and you can open doors. He doesn't ask a lot, just these little changes, just little deflections that years downrange mean you're somewhere completely different. So that's what came out of The Secret Millionaire.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, when I was reading your father's eulogy, and you talked about, even, growing up, you're growing up, in church, and even your viewpoint now, which is doing as much good as you can, which is what I gauged from, your interviews. That's where your heart is. I know that you're not religious yourself, but your heart and your dedication to helping people is very evident in all you do.
Yeah, so so Kenan's got a coat of arms like you do, and his coat of arms it says "Do well, do good," and I can't nick his coat of arms, but that's good. That's perfect, right? And my view is that those little moments where you can help people by just giving them the time or taking a call or having a coffee with them or just giving them a chance, right? So my view is that ambition is evenly distributed. Yeah, it's probably not evenly distributed because if you come from a more difficult socioeconomic background, whatever reason, then you're probably potentially more ambitious because you need to be. Where if you come from a comfortable background where you've got, legacy wealth that's been passed down through the generations. So ambition is evenly distributed. What isn't is access to opportunity and capital and guidance, those things. But if you connect all those dots, you'd extract and more value out of everybody, the population as a whole, and the nation. So I'm a big believer in the fact that you've got to connect people with opportunity, and then the tools and ingredients they know to maximize their chance of success, which in business is capital, guidance, support, and networks. And that's where social capital comes in. My network, right? My daughters, right? I've got 2 daughters and a son. I'll give you an example, right? You know Kanye King, right?
I think so, yes.
The MOBO Awards.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Kanye King, CBE, legend, built the MOBO Awards. Now she's building Mobilize, helping people gain new skills. Amazing lady. She's for mixed race as well. So I was with her last night at an event, and my daughter has just joined the band. She wants to be a singer now, apparently, this week. That's why I'm going to. My friend sat next to me. She's founder of the MOBO Awards, and she knows all the people you love. And she said, "Oh, really? Like you should talk to her." Like, "Oh no." And I text her going, "You have no idea that I know people like this, right? Other people don't." And the point I make is not, but that particular instance is that if you have that kind of access, or you can provide that little moment of inspiration or support, you can change lives. And so you don't have to be a mentor, spend months and weeks sitting with somebody going through their life and all the intricacies of it. Just share it, and it can make a difference. And that's all I usually ask of people.
Wow. And even on from that, on Dragon, I remember you on Dragon's Den from when I was younger. And I also know that you made many.
Easy on the younger. Yeah. It was 10 years ago.
And I thought you were a great dragon. And one thing I wanted to ask, I know you've made a number of successful investments, including Wonderly. I think I'm pronouncing it right. But I wanted to ask, what was your experience like on Dragon's Den?
I guess it was surreal in a way. So suddenly you get people. I get people all the time. They say to me, "Oh yeah, Dragon's Den. Yeah, I was asked to go on there, but I said no." I'm like, whatever, and people speak. Did you apply? But for me, normally wherever I am, people say to me, people say, "Oh, that's Piers Linney," and they say he was on Dragon's Den, and they always say to me, "Oh wow, did you get the money?" So it was surreal. So after the Richard Branson experience, probably several months of gap. And literally, there's no real practice. I think you did one like screen test just to make sure you didn't completely collapse in front of a camera for like half an hour. And then you turn up in the den, and hello Deborah, hello Peter, a bit of makeup, and you sit down, and off they go. That was it. So it was surreal, and I really enjoyed it. Actually, I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed learning. Yeah, and I did quite a lot of it. So I invested in Wonderly, which I reckon is the best Dragon's Den investment ever. So I got 100 grand for like, what, 5%. And they sold it. I can't exactly disclose the exact number, but I got about 45x, something like that.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. And I was actually about to ask a question on your best investments other than Wonderly, which is on record to date, I think is the most successful investment on Dragon's Den ever. What were other successful investments that you did?
So Dragon's Den, if anyone listening, watching, knows anything about venture capital or is an investor like I am, then they don't all work out. So Dragon's Den, going back to your question, what's it like actually? There's almost like a multiverse. So there's an experience of people pitching their idea to these people that might invest or might not in their business, and then when they stop and it's over, the cameras go off, right? And there's two worlds. So one is they go off and make a TV show, right? And normally they're there if it's interesting for 1.5 hours, maybe. So look, and usually you'll see maximum 12 minutes.
Yeah.
They've got to find a storyline. So you might see that, well, Piers didn't invest because he didn't like the brand. That's not why I didn't invest. I didn't invest because it was a subsidiary of a Canadian franchise. No, the structure doesn't work. But that's too boring for TV. Mm-hmm. They'll make a story, right? And off they go and they do their thing. That's what you see on TV. You don't shake the hand and out back and give them a brown envelope with the money in it, right? Yeah. All the 50s on the table. We then do an angel investment. So we meet, we talk, I gear up my lawyers, my accountants, and we check what they said is true. And we have some paperwork and an agreement, and off we go. And you hand over the money. Mm-hmm. And sometimes what they said doesn't quite pan out. Mm-hmm. Or they get a better offer because they waited so long, goes out on TV, or they were there for the PR, who knows? So they didn't always work out. Of mine, I think I did 9 handshakes, 6 deals happened. One did really well. One didn't work out, right? And the others, we ended up where eventually they were kind of not getting anywhere fast, really. They wanted the equity back, and we did give them money back. So I didn't make a profit on it at all. We just got the money back, essentially. So a venture capital fund or an investment portfolio, that's what they look like. Some fail. A lot don't work out or just do okay. And one returns the fund. So it's like a microcosm of a venture capital fund. And I was quite lucky because when I talked to lots of ex-dragons or even current dragons about their experiences, not many work out.
Mm. Thank you. That's actually really insightful. I didn't know of it to that extent. And why did you leave Dragons then?
So I left because I've been there, 2 years. I probably invested reasonable amount of money, actually. My business was having a few problems as well, so I was a bit distracted as well. I don't think the BBC was too sure about that either. My share price was in the toilet. But mostly because I didn't really want to be defined by it. It's part of my history. It's part of what I did. It opens doors. They replay it all the time on TV. I get young people. I was in Boots the other day, and this young shop assistant, she came up to me and goes, "Oh, I know who you are." And I think, how the hell? And I forget they keep replaying them on TV. So it's quite good in a way that Dragon's Den just show people that kind of that moment. But that's not business, right? It's just that's the only part of business they can actually put on TV. Everyone's tried. Otherwise, you've got to follow somebody around for 10 years through trials and tribulations, ups and downs. No production company can do that. So that's the moment that works for TV. But I think I'm happy that it doesn't define me. I am a former dragon, but it's not just who I am. I'm much more than that.
Definitely. And one thing that I was also reading, one of your LinkedIn posts, which I thought was really, really powerful, was when you talked about it being a very isolating at the top.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind that post? Because I was reading it and I thought it was quite powerful.
I can't remember which post you mean. I do post a lot on LinkedIn. So, yeah, a lot. Yeah, so it can be, especially, so about Dragon's Den. So when you're a celebrity, I get it today. It's a strange thing. And I'm a Z-list celebrity, right? And people come up to you and you can see in their eyes, they're like, this shit excited. I've had people like, they're literally shaking with excitement, just me, little old me, what the hell? And celebrity is weird that it has this sort of, there's kind of a power to it, a value that people sort of attribute to me, but they think I'm this caricature that they saw on TV, which was, let's face it, that caricature of me on TV is the kind of, is a function of editing. It's not me. When they meet me, they're like, oh, well, you're not like you were on TV. Although I don't think I came across as much of an idiot on TV. I came across okay. So people don't think I'm someone I'm not. But I think Deborah's a good example, right? Deborah, she's the dragon, the woman, the horrible lady. But I think that the caricature they created around Deborah is just 1990s misogyny. That's if you think about it. The new female dragons, you don't have to be that person. Because Deborah's the complete opposite. She's the nicest lady you'll ever want to meet.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, she definitely does seem like a lot nicer. But I think that they probably do that to get the ratings up. I would presume.
Yeah, they want some friction, some banter. And when you see the dragons arguing on TV about some deal, a lot of that is real. It's a bit of banter, obviously, but you want to get the good deals because you're only going to do so many deals. You want to invest some money, so you want to get the ones you think actually that there's opportunity here. And of course, when that happens, somebody else notices it as well, and that competition is typically real. It was when I was there.
And yeah, thank you so much for that. And also, I'd like to also ask, you co-founded Implement AI. I wanted to ask, what was the inspiration behind your idea?
The inspiration behind starting Implement AI is very, very simple. It's not a once in a career opportunity. It's not a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's a once in a species opportunity. Right? So it's the biggest opportunity I've ever seen and will ever see, and the biggest opportunity in the current global economy. Right? AI, machine learning, generative AI, whatever it becomes, because we're in the dial-up internet era of AI right now, okay, it's going to change everything. Cognitive labor, knowledge work, all the things that I did, lawyer, accountant, hedge fund manager, banker, all that stuff that we pay hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds is going to be productized, commoditized, and it's going to zero. And then eventually you put this technology into hardware that it's got dexterity and can move and do things. Everyone goes, but AI can't do this yet. I'm always saying, yeah. Can you do a backflip? I can't do a backflip, right? These robots can do backflips. They're going to have all of our senses. They're going to have touch soon, just as good as ours. They'll have taste, smell, everything else. They've already got vision. They've already better at writing anything than I am, to be quite honest with you. So AI is going to change business and eventually society and the world in which we live, especially the world in which our children live. So it's inevitable. And what we do at Implement AI is we help companies understand the technology, embrace it, and put it to work. We don't spend all day talking about, ethics and, Terminator. We talk about how do you use the technology today that works? Not all the stuff that's in the news, it's all funky and clever. What works today? How do you deploy that in your business so you can grow faster, you can be more profitable, you can augment your team? Not about getting rid of people. It's about empowering people and augmenting them to the repetitive, the mundane stuff they don't want to do anyway. You deal with that so they can do the work that they went into that career to actually do. And that's the 5-year kind of window opportunity. 50 years out, who knows? I don't think anyone's going to have a job, but that's inevitable. So don't worry about that. It's 5 years out, 10 years out. And within 5 years, you'll start to see massive change as it starts to seep into the economy. Within 10 years, you'll see a profound change in the world in which we live.
Thank you. I mean, it goes back to a point that my mum always told me about Korea, that those who know how to use AI are probably more likely to be successful in the years to come.
Yeah, AI is probably, depends what you do. It's not going to take your job. Maybe unless you work in a call center, something like that, or even lawyers. It's not going to take your job, but somebody using AI will, for sure. Yes. So us mere mortal humans, there's a pyramid of like value and labor, right? It's all cognitive and physical, and the machines dealt with a lot of the physical. So we focus on the cognitive in most cases. But now the AI is intelligence. So that's coming off the bit that we used to do. We used to use the tools, and now the intelligence, not quite there yet, can use the tools, right? So we have to migrate to the top of that pyramid, which is not getting any bigger anymore, and add value. And find ways of using the technology to engage with people, family, customers, stakeholders in new ways. And it really, what it's about is the EQ, the human experience, not the IQ. IQ, you'd be able to buy off a shelf like a packet of crisps within a decade.
Thank you. And even just following on from that, I actually read your recent interview with Yahoo News where it talked about that you believe that jobs in call centers, legal firms, and accountancy firms will be impacted by AI. Why do you think jobs in these sectors will particularly be affected?
I pick on those because I've come across them and experienced how AI is going to impact them. I'm a lawyer, so I understand that. So it's going to impact every job, okay? So you may find the jobs of the future that pay the big bucks. It's not knowledge work. It's not hedge fund managers and lawyers and accountants. It's care assistants. The people that should be earning the big money, to be quite honest with you. So that see that because that's hard to do. It's hard to have that touch, that empathy, that understanding. You will have robots who will be able to care for us, no problem, but just as good as a human physically. But the empathy, the compassion will be difficult to do. So if you look at professional services, if you look at say law, accounting, all things that I've done, it's knowledge work, it's cognitive labor. Any job you do, or anyone does, sat in front of a computer, in front of a screen, with a mouse and a keyboard, AI will be able to do. So even now, I'll give you a couple of things to think about, listening and watching this. So think about now, AI can now, it's not very good yet, like operate OpenAI or computer use in Anthropic. It can move a mouse, click on things, understand what's on a screen because it can now see vision and use a keyboard, type at superhuman speeds, right? So fast forward, when that's pretty good, you don't need screens on computers because screens for humans to operate them. You need a screen maybe to see a dashboard of what's going on, not to operate it. You'll just talk to it, or you'll tell it in your phone, whatever, tell it what to do. You'll go and write the code, create the application and get it done, or click on the internet. The internet's going away. Yeah. What's the internet? A load of places we surf around, and you've got Google indexing it, and when you search for something you get a long list of stuff, mostly adverts. You need a search engine to go through the search results. So you got all this stuff, right? Then you got to sift through there and find it. In a decade, probably 5 years, let's go to a decade because it definitely will happen by then. You'll have an AI agent, understands you, your likes, your dislikes, your hobbies, your heart rate, your mood, your last ECG, everything, right? And then when you want to buy something, it'll just know it'll be like a hedge fund algorithmic trade. I always use the example of a Barbie. You need a Barbie for Sunday because the family are coming. I'll spend 200 quid on a new one, 150 on a second-hand one. Let me know. And it goes off, talks to all the Barbie sellers, does a deal, negotiates, comes back, and either gives you the option or has just bought it because you trust it because it knows you so well. That will be online e-commerce, retail. The internet will be something that you surf around with your kids like in a museum, going, "Oh, look at this, look at that." And they'll be like, "Well, you used to do this. What? Why?" They'll be like that. They'll think it's quaint. And all I hear about the AI really is, "Oh yeah, but it doesn't do this yet." So whatever you think about AI, it doesn't do. Think about what it does do today. Think about what it did a year ago and a year before that. So I always say, always put hyphen yet whenever after any sentence like that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And it's interesting because I was also thinking that your recent newsletter highlighted that AI is going to be one of the biggest equalizers in business. How can businesses effectively use AI to gain advantage within their market?
Yes, this is quite an interesting one. So the beauty of AI in one way is, take for example, its ability to code, right? So now they're saying that, by the end of 2025, AI will be the best, better at code than any human, right? And not just competitive coding, which is a complex nonsense, actual writing code. So then the beauty of it is that I've invested, spent, lost millions of pounds of my life on projects to write code. Code is going away. I used to tell my son, "You should learn to code, and you'll always have a job. You'll always be able to earn money." This was about 2 years ago. Fast forward a year ago, he was saying, "Well, why would I learn to code? You can do it with these new age AIs." And I was like, "Oh yeah, think fast, think fast. Don't be the bricklayer, be the architect. Learn about the architecture and the code at that level." And he's like, "Oh man, okay." And now, if you ask me now, I'd be like, "Don't learn to code," because we're going to talk to computers. And they'll just go away and do what they want to. So that's the beauty of it now. It's democratizing access to technology, right?
Yeah.
The issue is that democratizing means everyone can do it. Now you've got to find, on top of that hyperscale cloud infrastructure and all the different AIs you can do, now you've got text to text and text to video, text to image and voice. Eventually there'll be anything to anything models. The question then is, okay, given that everyone can now access intelligence, you can now spin up 2,000 PhDs, can then do some research for you, or even Nobel Prize winners, depending on what your budget is. How do you differentiate? That's the question now. And what we do, my business Implement AI, we've decided that the opportunity actually is not all about the technology and the capability, it's the implementation.
Oh wow. That's really, really interesting actually. And how do you think, like I know that you're using Implement AI, how do you think that workplaces can better prepare their workforces to prepare for the AI age? Because there's lots of people that I know that still don't know, can't get their head around AI. I'm just learning how to use AI now, but I know lots of other people in my position.
Yeah, that's great you're learning, and you learn by using it, right? So you got to learn the basics of prompting and giving it context and what different AIs do. And it's hard to get your head around, right? A year ago, you saw these like flickery AI videos where every single still in that video was a completely different image. They related to the last one, but it wasn't quite the same. So they kind of flickered and they completely changed within about a minute, something completely different. You're watching someone drive a car down the road, and suddenly the car in 4 seconds is now a whale swimming through some oceans. Like, what the hell? Now, you prompt a video and it's like Hollywood quality. So you'll be able to prompt quite soon that a whole film. You won't be sitting there going through like we all do, spend an hour every evening going through one with a film. You'll just create one on the fly.
Oh wow!
So that's kind of where it's going. Now, what was your question again? I've gone off track.
It's about how we can better prepare people.
Yeah. So that's why I always do that. So you got to understand the pace at which it's changing and its capabilities, right? But don't worry about all the noise. Worrying about what's happening in China today or America and all that noise, right? It's interesting, but focus on what works today. So you got, Google Gemini, you got Anthropic from Claude, ChatGPT. You might want to use XAI. There's lots of ones you can use, right? I tend to use OpenAI, ChatGPT, and Claude myself, but I use it for everything. There's nothing I do cognitively, and I really mean this, where at some point I don't use an AI, even if it's just to check the finished product. It just isn't. Why wouldn't I involve this technology in everything I do? It is mind blowing. So learn the basics of like prompting, learn the basics of how can you use it to empower yourself and make you better at what you do. Let me give you a great example. So now you can go into ChatGPT, I think it's paid, maybe free even, or Perplexity AI. It's called deep research. So what do we all do? We spend all on YouTube or somewhere else trying to find a podcast or something that we interest us. And now on LinkedIn again, I did a post, and I don't know why I picked this. I just thought about it on the fly. I did a deep research about the effect of the increased incidence of large hailstones in the US on the US insurance industry. Complete nonsense, boring, but I wanted to prove a point. So I send off deep research. It goes off. It's like getting a PhD to go and do 2 days work across 50 sources. Read them, assimilate them, organize them, think about it, and write a report with citations. That's too long to read, man. Life's too short. And then I upload that to Google Notebook LM. Have you heard of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of it.
You probably have because you're a podcaster. So Google Notebook LM, I upload it, I prompt it saying, like, just focus on, I don't know, the impact on the industry or the impact of insurance premiums, right? And then within 5 minutes, you've used it, you get two pod hosts, I guess they are, which are AIs, indistinguishable in terms of the audio from humans, American accents currently, having a conversation about your research for like 15 minutes. So I do that and I listen to stuff in the car. So I absorb information. Not only that, if you're not driving, you can now click a button and interrupt them and engage with them in the podcast. So there's stuff like that that you can just use to completely supercharge your ability to absorb information, understand stuff you never understood before. Right? Because you can make it simpler, and reflecting it back to you until you understand it. So there's that. Use all the tools. Use text to text, text to video, just play, just so you can see what's going on. And then really it's about putting it to work in what you do, whether it's your hobbies, whether it's your job, whether it's your business, whether you're a one man or one lady band, it doesn't matter. It's to start using it. People often say, let's pick an example. I don't know. Write me a book for young adults about a school for wizards. You'll get something. It won't be great, right? If you, which you can now almost do, probably can with Google, you could upload the whole Harry Potter series, apart from the last chapter, the lot, into a prompt. So, write me the last chapter of this book about a school for young wizards, or whatever the hell. I'm not into Harry Potter. You'll get an amazing ending because you've given it context. And that's what it's about. So you've got to think about, what am I trying to achieve? Explain that. Who am I? Explain that. Where am I? Explain that. Why am I doing this? What are the outputs? What have I done before like this? What's my writing style? What other styles of output do I like other people have done? So you put all of that in. Only when you've done all of that do you then actually tell it what you want. And then you'll avoid garbage in, garbage out. Your mind will be blown.
Well, thank you so much for that, Piers, and just for such a great interview. And the last question I'd like to ask you is, please tell us about any ventures, projects you want to tell my audience about.
Yes, Implement, obviously. But the other big one I want to, there's two, because while we're here, one's Atherton Bikes. We started a bike company 5 years ago. We make 3D printed titanium carbon fiber mounted bikes. We now make also aluminium mounted bikes. We won the World Championship first and second last year, so just about the end of the year before. Amazing. Love it. I'm a mountain biker, very proud of it. But the business everybody needs to know about is Sen, sen.com. So my friend Charles, 35 years ago, share my age again, he's similar age to me, had a vision of space TV. But then to put TV cameras into space, you had to be a government. It'd be the spaceship it'd be a satellite the size of a single decker bus. Now, you've got cameras in your pen, so it doesn't matter. So you can put them anywhere. But he spent almost 10 years designing space hardened cameras. And he's launched a camera on his own satellite, a CubeSat that's flying around Earth. And what it does is provide images of Earth from space in 4K video. But what you need to go and do is look at Sen, log onto the website, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and what you can then watch in real time is live video of Earth from the International Space Station.
Oh, wow.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And when you're watching those images, when you're watching an image of the start of SpaceX's Dragon spaceship docked to the International Space Station, and in the background, you're watching the sun rise over Earth, I want you to know it's beautiful, it's amazing, but there's 10 years of pain and hard work's gone behind that. And I think it's one of the most exciting businesses in this country. There's a space unicorn in Clerkenwell, London, and they need support. It needs people to go and watch it.
Wow, that's
By the way, full disclosure, I'm an investor because he's a friend and I put up quite a bit of money in, but it's a game changer. It's amazing.
Wow, that actually really does sound amazing. Thank you so much for such a great interview, Piers. I thoroughly enjoyed interviewing you. I've learned so much, and then my audience will do too.
Great. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Piers.